Hello all my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video we're going to stitch up this scarf. It's called the Rainbow of Hope Skinny Scarf. It only measures about 4.5 inches wide, but from point to point it is 48 inches. But of course, if you want a longer scarf, you can always make it longer. And if you don't want a scarf that long, you can always make it shorter just by changing the amount of repeats you do through the scarf. The stitch we're using today is an open shell stitch, and it makes a really pretty, lightweight spring and summer and even fall type scarf. Now this scarf is really versatile because you can use it, of course, as an accent around your neck to brighten up and make your outfit even more cheerful. You can also use it as a head scarf, maybe tied around to keep your hair from flying all over the place like mine does. The other thing you can use this for is a belt. It's super long, so you can tie it around your waist to maybe cinch in a blouse or a dress. So it's a great accent piece to have with you wherever you go. And it will also cheer up and brighten everybody's day with these bright, beautiful colors. Now you can find this free crochet pattern on my blog. And as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make our Rainbow of Hope skinny scarf, I used Red Heart Super Saver. This colorway is called Favorite Stripe. It has beautiful, bright colors, just like a rainbow. And I loved how it's stitched up. It's absolutely gorgeous. It takes only about 2.5 to 3 ounces, depending on how long you want your scarf. Now, you don't have to make it in rainbow. You can use any of the ombres, that would be gorgeous. Any of the striping yarns for different looks and effects. I think it's a really good pattern for any of your striping cakes or striping yarns where the colors move a little bit quicker than some of the long stripes. But it's up to you. You can just get in your yarn stash and use any medium weight number 4 yarn that you have. You can make this in cottons or any fibers as well. It works up quick, and it's also a great take-along pattern because once you start doing your repeats, you're going to continue that till it's the length that you need, and then of course add the point on the other side. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. And then the other thing you need is a needle for weaving in ends and a pair of scissors. We're going to begin with our slip knot and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. So yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and go the next 2 loops. Now we'll do a second one. So I have 3 double crochets because our chain 3 counts as 1, and I stitched 2 more. And we'll go ahead and chain 3. So for row 1, we have 3 double crochets. All right, let's do row 2. Our chain 3 counts is our first double crochet. So we're going to turn our work. We're going to stitch a double crochet in that first stitch. We'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next stitch. And then in that last stitch, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And chain 3. So now we've increased to 5 double crochets because our chain 3 counted as 1. We stitched 1 in that first stitch, 1 in the next, and 2 in that last stitch. So we have 5 double crochets, chain 3 for row 2. All right, let's do row 3. We've chained 3. We're going to turn our work. We're again going to place a double crochet in that first stitch, we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 double crochets in our last stitch. 1 and 2. Then we'll chain 3. So now for row 3 we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so we're increasing at the beginning and the end of each row. This is just during the point portion of our scarf. All right, so chain 3, we're going to double crochet in the first stitch, double crochet in the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 double crochets in that last stitch. And chain 3. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 double crochets, chain 3. So now we're going to repeat what we just did for 2 more rows. So we'll double crochet in the first double crochet next to that chain 3, 1 double crochet in the next 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 2 double crochets in that last stitch. So we increased by 2. Let's go ahead and chain 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and we're going to increase for 1 more row. So our chain 3 counts as 1. We're going to stitch in that first one, 1 double crochet in the next 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, some more yarn out here, there we go, 7, 8, and 9, and then 2 double crochets in this last stitch, 1 and 2, and chain 3. All right, so this brings us up to row 6. We increased by 2 on every row, and so at row 6 we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 double crochets, and we chained 3. Now on row 7 we're going to begin making our open shell stitches. We've chained 3, we're going to turn our work, and in the previous rows we placed our double crochet in that first stitch because we wanted to increase. We don't want to increase anymore, so we're going to skip that first stitch because our chain 3 counts as our first, and we're going to double crochet in that next stitch. We're going to skip 2 stitches. There we go. And we're going to stitch our open shell stitch in the next. So there's our 2 skip stitches. We'll go in, stitch a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and 1 more double crochet. And so our open shell stitch is 4 double crochets with a chain 1 in between. Now we're going to skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to stitch another open shell stitch. And it's called open because we don't normally put those chain 1s in between, but we want this to be open and lacy. It's a spring, summer type scarf, and so we want it to be open and lacy. All right, so I stitched a second open shell stitch. Double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one. So you have 4 double crochets with a chain one in between. All right, so we're going to skip the next 2 stitches and stitch 1 double crochet in the last 2. And then we'll go ahead and chain 3. All right, and so for row 7, we have 2 double crochets, we have 2 open shell stitches, and 2 double crochets. We chain 3, going to turn our work. We're going to double crochet in that next double crochet. And throughout the project, your chain 3 is going to count as your first double crochet. And then you'll stitch your second double crochet in that second double crochet. Now we're going to move over to the middle chain 1 of our open shell stitch. And we're going to stitch our open shell stitch in that middle chain 1 space. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and then 1 more double crochet. So we stitched our open shell stitch in the center chain 1 of the open shell stitch of the previous row. And then we'll repeat that in this open shell stitch. There's my third double crochet, chain 1, and then my last double crochet. So we have 2 open shell stitches, and we stitched them in the center chain 1 of the shell stitches of the previous row, and then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in these last 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and chain 3. We chained 3, so let's just repeat what we just did. We're going to double crochet in the next double crochet. We're going to stitch our open shell stitch in the center chain 1 space of the previous shell stitch. I should say from the previous row. Now we'll repeat that in the center chain 1 space of our next open shell stitch. And then double crochet in those last 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. And I think now you can see how the repeats of the pattern work. You'll have 2 double crochets because your chain 1 will count as your first. You'll have 2 open shell stitches, which are double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. That's your open shell stitch, and we're stitching those in the center chain 1 space from the shell stitches of the previous row, and you'll have 2, and then you'll have 2 double crochets at the end of the row. And so what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 9 for 33 more rows, and then we'll add the point that goes on the other end of our scarf. Now, if you want your scarf longer, do more rows. If you want it shorter, do less repeat rows. But for my scarf, I'm going to be stitching 33 more repeats of row 9. So I have repeated row 9 for 33 more rows. This is going to get me a scarf that's about 48 inches long. And again, if you want it longer, just stitch more repeats. If you want it a little shorter, maybe you're making this for a younger child, do less rows. It's up to you. All right? So once you have stitched it and it's as long as you want it, we're going to put the point, like this one, on the other end. I've chained 3 and turned my work. I'm going to place a double crochet in the next double crochet. And now I'm going to place a double crochet in each of those 4 double crochets of my open shell. We won't be stitching in the chain 1s, just the 4 double crochets. There we go. All right, so I've stitched 2 double crochets and then 1 in each of those 4. Now we're going to stitch a double crochet in this hole or space between those 2 shells. Now we'll stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets of the next shell. And remember, we're not stitching in the chain 1 spaces of the shell stitch, just the 4 double crochets. All right, and so that leaves us those 2 double crochets at the end, and we'll stitch 1 double crochet in each of those 2. And chain 3. And this gives us 13 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 double crochets. And now also at the end of this row, we're not going to chain 3. We're just going to chain 1. In order to form the point on this end of our scarf, we're going to be stitching some double crochet decrease stitches at the beginning and end of each row. It's also called stitching 2 double crochets together. And a reminder, after our 13 double crochets, we only chain 1, not 3. We're going to turn our work and we're going to stitch our first double crochet decrease, or stitching the 2 double crochets together. So yarn over, go in the first stitch and pull up a loop, then we'll go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through the first 3, yarn over and go through the last 2. And so what we did is we decreased by 1 double crochet. We're going to double crochet in each of the stitches across until we reach those last 2 double crochets. And when we reach those last 2, we're going to stitch a double crochet decrease, or stitching 2 double crochets together. I stitched 1 double crochet in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches. That leaves me 2 on the end, and we're going to stitch these 2 together for a double crochet decrease. And chain 1. Now we'll turn our work and we'll repeat that. We'll only have less stitches in here. So we'll stitch the first 2 together. We'll stitch 1 double crochet in each stitch till we reach the last 2. Whoops. Let's see. Let's count to make sure. And so we have the first 2 together. I stitched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now I'm going to stitch these last 2 together. and chain 1. So we had 13, then we reduced down to 11, and on this row we reduced down to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 double crochets. All right, let's do the next row. We're just going to repeat it. We'll just have less stitches in between. So we're going to stitch the first 2 together. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll stitch the next 2 together. Chain 1 and turn. We'll stitch the next 2 together, or the first 2 together. 1 double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3, and stitch those last 2 together. Chain 1, turn. We'll stitch the first 2 together. We'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next and stitch the next 2 together. That leaves us with 3 double crochets. Now we're going to tie off and weave in with our needle. And remember, when you're weaving in, go through stitches and fibers of the yarn, not the holes in between if you can help it, as that's going to give you a much better hold, especially if you're going to be washing this and putting it through the laundry. And since this is Red Heart Super Saver, you can wash it. Now I will tell you, when I wash mine, I put a little fabric softener in there, of course, and then I don't put them through the dryer. You can, it says you can, but I don't. I just lay them out to dry. I think it makes it last a little bit longer, but that's just what I do. So here's my finished Rainbow of Hope skinny scarf. And one thing that I did not plan is that the ends of my scarf ended up similar, and it's striped similar up through. And I really, really love how that turned out. So if you have this favorite stripe from Red Heart Super Saver, start with the beginning of the yellow, and it should end up about the same. But of course it doesn't have to. It'll still be beautiful if it doesn't. I didn't plan this. It just worked out that way, and I absolutely love it. I had this Red Heart favorite stripe skein of yarn left over from a previous project, and I wanted to make the Rainbow of Hope scarf because right now we all can use a little bit of hope and cheerfulness from a rainbow.